Shut it down! Shut it down!
Yes, yes. And Mayor, Director, I'd love to introduce and find her from the all right.
Sorry.
Save our hospital, save our community. Save our hospital, save our community. Save our hospital.
What's up? Just like, make sure people are in I'm not doing any gas
Save our hospital. Save our community. 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 Save our community. Save our hospital. Save our community. Save our community. Save our hospital. 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 Save our community. What is this about? Patient care. What is this about? Patient care. What is this about? Patient care. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. What is this about? Patient care. What is it about? Patient care. What is it about? Patient care. Tell me what it's about. Patient care. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. How are you?
Thanks for coming. I'm in the office with Mount Vernon. You're going to be here.
Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Monty, shame on you, Mount Vernon Hospital. We need you. Save our hospital. Save our community. 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 Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. Monty, can't you see? This is a healthcare emergency. No healthcare, no peace. 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 If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. Don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. No healthcare, no we don't get it, keep them open. If we don't get it, take it over. 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 No health care, no peace. 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 If we don't get it, take it over. 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 No health care, no peace. 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 Save our hospitals. Save our community. 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 What do we want? What do we want? Patient care. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Patient care. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Patient care. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Patient care. When do we want it? Now. You can hide. Greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Monty, you can hide. We can see your greedy side. Save our hospitals. Save our hospitals. Save our hospitals. Save our community. Save our hospitals. Save our community. Save our hospitals. Save our community.
yeah.
Okay, we're going to try our best to do social distancing. Everyone wear a mask. Everybody's wearing a mask. We're going to start with the press conference in a minute or so.
This is red. I give up.
No, I'm good.
If we don't.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. We are here today because we face a serious situation in the city of Mount Vernon. That once again, the city of Mount Vernon, which is majority of black and brown people, are now in the midst of facing systemic racism from Montefiore Hospital, who is trying to close down this hospital in the midst of a pandemic that has hit the black and brown community harder than any other community in the nation. And we save and transform Mount Vernon Hospital. That in the midst of a pandemic, Monty was transferring out COVID patients. In the midst of a pandemic, Monty was not fully up to par where they needed to be in the midst of a pandemic that hit our community harder than any other community. Monty, in the midst of all of what we're going through in our city and in our nation, closed down the ICU unit in this hospital. It is horrible what is happening in the hospital, and we cannot let that happen in the city of Mount Vernon, and we cannot let that happen to the patients that need this hospital for quality care, and we deserve quality care in the city of Mount Vernon. So Governor Cuomo, while you were telling hospitals they needed to be open, while you opened the Jacob Javits Center, while you had the Mercy Hospital ship come to this state, we had a hospital with beds ready to receive people. But instead they put it unexpected. And so we have our electeds, our stakeholders in our city to come and speak about the importance of saving and transforming Mount Vernon Hospital. By the way, I'm the Reverend Dr. Stephen Kolb. I pastor the Greater Centennial AME Zion Church right here in the great city of Mount Vernon. The first person I want to bring to us is the one at the helm of the city, one who's doing a great job leading this city to doing greater things and higher heights, our Madam Mayor, Mayor Shawn Patterson-Howard.
Because we need, for those who are watching, to be able to hear what we're saying. Okay. We want to be excited, but we want to be able to deliver this message so that everyone can hear and understand the gravity of the situation that we're in. And I'm going to pull my mask down because there's no one 6 feet in front of me. So I'm socially distancing. But in October, when this information about the hospital being closed leaked out, leaked out, Monty tried to maneuver very quickly and come up with a different narrative. They said the hospital wasn't closing, they were just moving services about a mile away. But a hospital and an ambulatory care center with an emergency room does not equate. We have a 151-bed hospital here that has many units that provides comprehensive medical services. But over the past 20 years, we have seen Mount Vernon community and Mount Vernon Hospital raped, violently raped, over and over and over again, of our labor and delivery unit, of our pediatric services, of our wound center, of our cardiology unit, and now that, and oncology as well. We had a dialysis center here. Yes, it was an external contract, but they've ended that. And while there was a moratorium on closing the hospital in the height of COVID, now that we see a downtick in COVID cases, Monty has shown their true colors, and they have come out and they have created racist, systemic violence against our community by shutting down our ICU unit. Our ICU unit, our telemetry care. They have ended our medical intern program, our revenue generating programs. They are closing and they are transferring, and they are preparing to potentially even move the ambulatory center that they're proposing for Sanford Boulevard out of Mount Vernon. So they're going to take us and rape us again of the $41 million that we are receiving from the state in medical transformation forms and take that to funds to another community because they don't feel like we're playing ball. Well, playing ball does not mean that you take an urgent care center, for lack of a better term, and a part-time emergency room as a substitution for a hospital. Monty, by their own study and by their own admission, said that this is a medically underserved community. We have one of the highest rates of HIV still in the state, highest rates of diabetes and uncontrolled diabetes. We have high rates of hypertension, high rates of high cholesterol, heart failure and heart disease. We have high rates of breathing disorders like asthma and COPD. We have a large population of seniors. We are the blackest and brownest community north of the Mason-Dixon line. And when we're talking about structural racism, and we're talking about dismantling structural racism, for them to continue to march quickly, intentionally, and strategically ahead with closing down our hospital is criminal. It is racist, it is violent, it is unconscionable. This is not only an attack on the public health of our community, but it is inextricably tied to the public safety of our community. Public health and public safety are one and the same. We had 2 stabbings in our community last night. Could we bring them to Mount Vernon Hospital? No. Could they receive care? So we can say that the hospital is open, but when you are gutting us day by day like a fish, what do we have left to offer our community? While you are telling us to wait and have a conversation so we can reevaluate your plan, you have not stopped or slowed down your plans to gut our community and our hospital of the critical services that we not only need, but we deserve. And I need to say this to the Mount Vernon residents. While many of you have fallen out of love with Mount Vernon Hospital, it's not because of the staff that works here and the quality of staff. It is because the constant raping and taking away of our resources, which makes it very difficult for them to provide the level of services and care that our community not only needs, but we so desperately deserve. So we have to be very clear. We have to be very clear that if Monty is allowed not only to close, but to take the certificate of need that is intended for this community, our hospital operations certifications, and transfer that to Sound Shore or to another community, then we don't even have the opportunity to reach out to an NYU, to a Columbia Presbyterian, to a Northwell, or to any other hospital systems to come in. And that is by design. Monty wants to not only rape us of our services, but now take the funding from the state intended for our community and take our certificate of need, our ability to operate a hospital in this community, and give it away so that they will not have competition. That is what that is about. And we cannot allow that to happen. I've heard too many residents say, well, we don't care about Monty Hospital. Well, it's not about Monty. It's about our ability to obtain our certificate of need and make sure that we can continue to provide services, whether it's Monty or another system. We need services here in our community, and we deserve services in our community. And we cannot stand by idly and have political debate and community debate over whether or not we need a hospital here. That is a foregone conclusion. So I'm calling on Governor Cuomo. I am calling on Commissioner Zuckerman to stop sitting idly on the sidelines while Monty continues to gut our community of its health services. Governor Cuomo, you were the first one that said that this is disproportionately, that COVID has disproportionately impacted Black and brown communities, and that structural racism has been a problem in our state for a long time. And so we need you to stand with us now, because you control the county, the State Department of Health. You control whether or not Monty takes the certificate of need. You control whether or not the state gives them these transformation grants. And if you step forward and say this has to stop, then it stops today. There is no debate. We can march, we can protest, but if our top leaders in our state government do not come forward and stand with us, this is what we need. So we need a call to action. We need our residents, we need our professionals, we need our healthcare community to stand and reach out to our governor and tell him that this cannot happen. We did police reform, and the state and our legislators stepped forward quickly around police reform. Well, we need some medical reforms, because police issues is not the only thing that is violent upon the Black and brown community. But the violence being imposed on this Black and brown community is taking away our health care. And that cannot stand. That cannot stand. Dismantle the lies that Monty has fed our elected officials, our business community, and our community. Montefiore does not have the capacity to absorb the loss of this hospital. Montefiore Moses is short 300 nurses. Montefiore Moses, their flagship, when people go there, they're in the emergency room for 24, 48 hours. And when they're finally admitted, they lay upstairs on a gurney in the hallway. For 48 hours. So if you believe for one reason that Montefiore can absorb the loss of this hospital, then we're crazy. We're not crazy. We're not crazy. We're not asleep. They can't do it. They can't provide the services to the people they have now. Montefiore Moses' emergency room is the second busiest emergency room in the country, only behind Los Angeles County. New Rochelle, Sound Shore Hospital, right now, their labor and delivery unit is closed, and those people are being moved over to St. John's. That's how it started here. So New Rochelle, if you're going to allow Monty to rock you to sleep, and if you're going to allow and continue to believe that Mount Vernon is going to be the life support for New Rochelle Hospital, it's not, because we don't have enough energy to continue to float your hospital. And they know that. And so believe me, you will see the closing of your units. And if you stand by idly and watch this happen, then you will not have anyone to stand with you when it happens to you. St. Joseph's in Yonkers is a Monty hospital. They're going to move them and change them to behavioral health services. Yes. Again, they're in the middle of a black and brown community. There's a problem. Monty cannot sustain health care in Westchester because they can't even sustain it in the Bronx. So Governor Cuomo, we need you to reach out to your friends in other hospital systems and bring them to the table. We need you to reject Monty's certificate of need application immediately, and we need you to suspend any of the medical transformation grants that you were going to issue to Monty and pull them off the table for discussion until we can determine who is going to operate this facility behind us and who deserves that money to save our hospital and to transform our hospital. We need increased quality of services, and we need it now. Thank you very much.
We want to thank our mayor for leading us through all of the things that are happening here at this hospital and the things that are happening. And yes, we call on Governor Cuomo, come on down to Mount Vernon and meet the great people in Mount Vernon and see why we need a hospital. As you are doing press conferences day after day after day about the health crisis, we have one here, sir. Dr. Ozawa, the CEO of Monty. I saw your great article in the New York Times as you fought these two pandemics of racism and the pandemic of COVID. You are creating another one right here in the city. So we need you. I can talk about this all day, but I won't. We're going to have one of our nurses, our great nurses, come. Bernetta, won't you come?
Bernetta.